Hey, everybody. Welcome to Game Mess Mornings with me, Jeff Grubb, your host from giantbomb.com. Thank you for tuning in. In this episode, we're going to be talking about just how powerful will that PlayStation 6 handheld be and a hot start for the Super Mario Galaxy movie. It's going to be a good one because we have Jan Ochoa on the show. Jan, how are you doing?
I'm sleepy.
Yeah, me too. I was just like trying to fit in things I should have been doing over the weekend, but I was gone at PAX. So I'm like, doing a little bit more painting so we could do some wallpapering this weekend. Wallpaper's back, Jan. I don't know if you knew that.
Wallpaper is back?
Wallpaper's back, yes. And so
Ah.
I'm doing some of that. So I had to get ready for, and it's going to be a busy weekend because we're going to do some Easter stuff for the kids and go see the Mario movie. So, yeah, not a lot of time. I got to fit that in here.
Holy smokes, I didn't realize this weekend was Easter. I've just been living like a heathen, eating meat on Fridays and just not giving anything up.
Oh, no, you can't do that. There's too much fish. You got to eat the fish first.
Oh, I'll gladly eat the fish. I mean, we all ate a bunch of lobster. That's close enough.
Close enough.
Someone brought
fish
this
of the sea, they say. Lobster.
Exactly. Someone brought this up to my attention when we were mentioning about the sheer volume of lobster rolls we ate over the PAX weekend. Is that not a sea dog almost? Is that not a fancier hot dog to some?
Yeah, I mean, the way it was presented, it did feel a bit like a sea dog. Yeah, I mean, and the thing about lobster is, it is just one meat, which is not something hot dogs can often claim. But if you did like imitation crab instead, then that you're getting real close to just being a sea dog. So I think we're on to something. I think we're pretty close to cracking that nut, Jan.
There we go. We're on the case.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us this week as we sleepily get through everything. It's going to be good. We got some more stuff happening, but we should probably explain what we're doing here and explain ourselves. We're Giant Bomb. We are internet video game doofuses, but we want to keep doing cool stuff, and you want us to keep doing cool stuff. And if that's the case, go to giantbomb.com/join and become a premium member. It ensures the future of independent games media. You get the warm fuzzies knowing that you're supporting all of that and making sure it'll keep going. It'll get you ad-free episodes of our shows. It will get you cool stuff like Marry Me Tomodachi, which we will be doing a new episode of today. We have Portal Pals, a new limited run series with Mary Kish and Mike Minotti playing Portal 2 co-op. It's a beautiful thing. First episode out now. Become a premium member so you can catch the rest. It's worth it. That's a great combination right there. Plenty of other cool stuff. There's the Absalom, this is the run. There's the Millionaire,
Yes.
This is the run. There's 9 Lives of Mr. Mistopheles. So much cool stuff happening over on Giant Bomb. I'll be doing a new Grub Snacks Premium today as well, so tune in for that. As far as this show goes, though, most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS feed on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with reports claim PS6 handheld surpasses Xbox Series S in graphics tests. This comes from a couple of places, but mostly that Kepler L2 person that we talked about a little bit earlier this week. They have a track record of being pretty good at least knowing what the specs are for upcoming hardware, and they have a pretty good idea of like especially with AMD stuff. Mm-hmm. So this is the bulk of the story, that the handheld that will be launching alongside the PS6 is going to be more powerful, generally speaking, than an Xbox Series S. Here's how Kepler L2 put it in a post on NeoGAF. GPU is a bit ahead of the Xbox Series S in raster, which is like the traditional way of presenting games, and of course massively ahead in ray tracing and path tracing, which is the alternative, the new way of doing things. Something that like you can be way better at ray tracing and path tracing and not be that much better at raster, and that's kind of what happened with the Switch 2 versus the Xbox Series S, where the Xbox Series S is probably a little bit more powerful still than the Switch 2 in traditional rastered graphics fidelity. But once you add on any path tracing or ray tracing, The Switch 2 has enough of the specialized, juice to make that stuff work really well. And so you get situations where it's like, oh, this game that kind of ran like shit on the Xbox Series S is running really well on the Switch 2, surprisingly so. With this PS6 handheld, it's sounding like you won't have any of that. It'll just straight up be more powerful than Xbox Series S, and then also have extremely good ray tracing performance on top of that. Then to compare it to the Switch 2, which, one of the magical sauce that does have, Jan, is the DLSS. It has a much older version of that, something that is helping, but isn't like the modern standard by a long shot. They're saying that the Pisser 3 tech that will be in the PS6 and apparently the PS6 handheld will lead to better image quality than even the current DLSS 4.5. So the top of the line stuff that we're getting on high-end NVIDIA GPUs, this will at least be able to match or surpass that. So you hope to hear these things for a device that is still years off, and in a lot of ways we talk about, at least for the home console, not having a lot of interest in. I'm a little bit more interested in a handheld for sure, Jan.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of stuff where it's like, okay, if you're going to do this, Sony, and the idea is to just have a PS6 you can take with you, this is kind of the realm you need to kind of start at of, I better be able to play all the games that are coming out to this thing on this device in a decent way. And if this is the case, that's great. And then, of course, there's the conversation around price, but we have no idea. So I don't know. How do you feel about all this?
Grubb, I'm in a similar space as you where I'd have a lot of hesitancy towards adopting the next generation of consoles. I feel like we haven't completely taken advantage of this one. But all that being said, I'm a sucker for a good handheld. My other worries, though, on top of performance and price, is how big is this thing going to be? If it's supposed to be as powerful as an Xbox Series S, is this thing going to chew up and churn through batteries? How hot is this thing going to get? Because I've also been very curious about how PlayStation has been pushing and positioning the PlayStation Portal. Because at first it felt like a weird idea for them to put out, and then it didn't quite land. But lately, it's been hitting. It's been a silent system seller, not system seller, but like a product that is moving off of shelves. So much so that they included it in like the price increase, right? I don't know. Are they learning anything from that? Is it just going to be a big honking screen with two dual senses attached to the sides? I am curious about what this is going to look like.
I think that it is probably going to be pretty big, pretty bulky. They are putting an entire laptop into there, similar to a Steam Deck. This thing is certainly going to be expensive. $250 for a PlayStation Portal today, and then that doesn't have any of the real hardware in there to run games. And then we're talking about comparing that to what you would put in there today. That's not what this thing is. This thing is, 4 Zen, 6 core processors. It's like going to have 24 gigabytes of low power DDR5X memory. That's going to be a lot right there. Even 2 years from now, if things settle down, it's still going to be very expensive to put that in there. The 3 nanometer TSMC process, which has its benefits of, talking about how big is this thing going to be, that should enable them to shrink down the cooling structure of it. It should run pretty efficiently. It's still going to get hot. It's still going to need a fan, but it's going to have to be not quite as big as you would think otherwise. But that is also expensive. So there's just all these things here that line up to scream that this thing is going to cost quite a lot of money. And they kind of can't pull back on that, because the whole promise here is this is not a Vita. This is not a PSP. This is a PS6 on the go, not even a PS5, like a PS6, which is another reason why I think they will find ways to keep the PS5 around, because probably this will be the kind of thing that, hey, we'll keep making games for the PS5, and that means they'll also just work for the PS6 handheld. But yeah, all of this effort, I think it's probably going to pay off, though, because when I think about the next generation of consoles, I'm not too excited in general, even outside of all the factors of costs and how much I'm not playing my consoles or whatever. It's just, there's no gimmicks. The games look as good as I need them to look. The cost associated with producing a video game don't go toward making it look that much more special. It just kind of looks like, hey, well, let's just get them across the finish line at this point. And I don't need a whole new console to get that feeling. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But the idea of having a very convenient, all self-contained PlayStation device that I could just have with me, not even necessarily on the go, but around the house, is very appealing to me, even more so than the Portal, which I like the idea of the Portal. A lot of people have been enjoying that. But this would be, hey, I can then also take it with me on vacation or when I do leave the house, and that makes it all very much worth it. What do you think this is a good strategy for PlayStation to be pursuing this as one of the big gimmicks for their next console generation?
I think so, Grubb. I think so. I mean, we've seen the success of the Switch 1, the Switch 2, the Steam Deck. These other handheld PCs have degrees of success, right? Like the Asus ROG, I forget what it was called. The Xbox Asus ROG.
The Asus ROG Ally, yeah.
Right.
Ally X, yeah.
Ally X had a decent amount of success, but then we've also seen our fair share of ones that are complete duds. Like was it Lenovo or was it Logitech?
Yeah, the first Lenovo Legion Go kind of just came and went, yeah.
But I would hope and guesstimate that PlayStation has been doing their R&D, and they strike a good middle ground between portability, which is the whole goal of a portable system, right? And condensing that experience in that format.
Yeah.
Would you want stuff to pop out of this, or would you want it to be like a contained unit, like a Steam Deck?
I think I would want stuff to pop out just because handhelds I like having my handheld with me more so than I like to treat it like a precious little thing that I have to keep safe. And so that means occasionally the analog stick is going to get a little scuffed. Yeah. And I want it to be very easy to swap things in and out. And so, yeah, I would like to be able to detach the side controllers or whatever. That would be nice.
Grubb, I've been on this mountain yelling, and no one is listening to me. I've yelled this at Nintendo. I've been at Valve, and I've yelled this at them.
Is it time, Jan?
Grubb. PlayStation.
His wrist is so naked. PlayStation, do something.
A watch tan. PlayStation, give me a watch that goes with this system. Please.
What would it do, Jan?
That's not for me to figure out.
You're right. That's not your job. You just need the watch. That's all you're demanding.
Please.
I saw in chat people like, yeah, well, they treat this like PSVR and PSVR 2. I mean, the idea here would be they wouldn't have to worry about it because, again, it won't be a Vita. It won't be a PSP. It won't have its own unique games that only run on that device, so they don't have to distract the developers with making separate versions of their games or going to Bend and being like, hey, can you make a portable Uncharted? They can just have the PlayStation experience on the go in a full fat form. And yeah, I think that does mean that this becomes the baseline though, right, Jan? Because they can't make games that don't run on it. And that's fine. Excuse me. That's fine with me.
Grubb, would you... I think it'd be interesting if this handheld was considered just the straight up PlayStation 6. And you could do similar things where you can dock it and everything or plug it into a TV. And then the bigger console would already be called the PlayStation 6 Pro straight out at launch.
Right. Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if they would be hesitant to do that because they're like, we want to sell a lot of those and the pros always sell less. But I mean, they're going to sell less because of the pricing, right? Not necessarily because of the name. And that bigger and beefier home console will just inherently be more expensive. Although, this thing's shrunk down. It's probably not going to be that much more expensive than this.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea, Jan, because again, I just don't know what these companies get out of pushing the hardware that much more. Obviously there's probably some things waiting to be unlocked to make things easier for developers. Mm-hmm. But does that show up on the marketing side of things where it's like, and now that's the reason you got to have this device. So drop your money. I'm not seeing a lot of evidence of that, but who knows? They've done things one way for a very long time and it's always worked for PlayStation. I expect them to keep replicating that. I hope they just find a way to sprinkle this in as like, here's a new way of us executing on that idea. And obviously the handheld has been proven to work, like you were saying, Switch 2, Steam Deck, a bunch of examples of that now. So yeah, hopefully they can just make a really good portable version of the PlayStation. And that would be my main way of playing PlayStation games going forward. I would love that.
100%. My other request, Grubb, we've been asking for it as well. This is not a watch. I'm not asking for a watch. I am asking for a watch, but
Well, of course he's asking for a watch.
just give me a sidekick style screen.
Yeah, I mean,
That'd be swaggy as hell.
Something that just kind of like with that Sony consumer electronics design, like they're sort of high skill level on that stuff. I think they could do a good job of just making that thing pop out so it can kind of condense and be smaller when it is. I mean, I don't think this thing's going to fit in a pocket, but when it's time to throw it in a bag, just make it more condensed. That would be fantastic.
This is why I'm so upset about the design of the PS5, because a lot of other Sony electronics look so slick and cool. That I don't know who they let into the room to make the PS5.
Yeah, and I was wondering, like, because I do like it ironically, and Mike doesn't like that. He likes it, genuinely and with his whole heart and whole chest. But I'm like, is this going to be one of those things where it's like we look back at that era of the goopy Sony design, where it's like it looked like liquid metal falling apart or like or melting, and that's what their CD player looked like in the '90s? And I'm like, I don't think so.
No,
I think the PS5 is just kind of off for most people, and it won't be looked back upon too fondly beyond the very core audience.
I want this PS6 and the PS6 handheld to look like a blocky Gundam.
Yeah, hell yeah, let's go. All right, let's shift over to the Super Mario Galaxy movie, which we had been talking about because of the reviews from critics, which weren't too hot. In fact, they were pretty scathing. The movie's going to end cinema, Jan. I can't stop thinking about how funny that headline is. It's so good. But hey, it's doing all right at the box office so far. The movie launched last night, and it is, let's see, $34 million in one night, according to Anthony D'Alessandro at Deadline. Out of the gate, Illumination, Nintendo, and Universal's The Super Mario Galaxy movie is already breaking records with a $34 million Wednesday. That's the best opening day so far this year, besting Amazon MGM Studios' Project Hail Mary, which rang up a $33.1 million Friday/previews. But it's also the best opening Wednesday in April, beating 2023's The Super Mario Brothers movie, which brought in $31.7 million. Keep in mind, no previews puffing up that figure. That first chapter during Easter stretch 2023 went on to post a 3-day $146.3 million and 5-day $204.6 million, which was an all-time opening for Illumination. The forecast for this movie right now does say that this movie's probably going to still end up coming in a bit short of that massive 2023 haul for the original movie, but it seems like it'll be right there. So I definitely had questions about whether they'd be able to replicate the excitement for the movie. I knew a lot of families were going to go see it. I knew it was going to make a lot of money. Was it going to be breaking any records the way the first one did? I didn't think so, because I'm like, people probably got their fill last time. And it turns out, with these family-focused movies, that's not how it works. Like, I'm always looking for the next reason to take the kids out to go do something fun. And this is one of the better excuses where it's like, oh, everyone in the family knows who Mario is and has some experience with him. So we're all going to get something out of this. So it's kind of a no-brainer. And there's not a lot of those no-brainers out there. And it's showing up in these numbers, right?
Oh, 100%, Grubb. You talk about like bringing the family to the movies, and I can't quite place the last time there's been a gigantic movie that appeals to everyone, because I feel like the casting also of these Super Mario movies is targeted such a way that it will get older audiences in, right? You don't just cast Donald Glover and not expect him to draw in that millennial audience, not only that is already drawn to the Super Mario movies because of the IP, but also because, like, oh, hey, I like Glenn Powell. I kind of remember Star Fox. I like Benny Safdie. He's the weird actor one of the Safdie brothers. So this was a no-brainer. I don't know why critics were so up their own asses thinking that this was going to be the death of cinema and not acknowledging that the greater balance, Grubb, of you need this type of movie to draw people into the theaters.
Yeah, I mean, what they can only view it on their own, like from their own experience, right? And if you're going in there and you don't have that value, or you don't have that experience with Mario, or you don't value it the same way, I am not surprised that many of them went into it and were like, "This is physically painful for me to sit through." And I don't have sort of any problems with the reviews. I was just like, it's kind of funny how hyperbolic these headlines are. And I, you know, I know it's not the end of cinema. That's all. So when I saw that one, I'm like, it's not the end of cinema. We're gonna be just fine. I really enjoy actually reading those reviews because it's like, oh man, this must be how it feels if you're someone who's like like I am super into games, and you get some like real slop, and people are like, oh my god, is this the best thing ever? It's like, yeah, I know how you feel about this. I'm just gonna have a different experience because my expectations are so divorced from what yours are that I know this doesn't really matter all that much.
We are in a post Sonic 3 world in cinema,
Yes,
right? So,
yes.
and I don't, for as much as I enjoy the Sonic movies, I don't think that they bring out any deep emotional connection. I'm not sobbing at the theaters like I am when I'm watching Hamnet or like a different Chloe Zhao film. But again, this is like that popcorn entertainment. This is like the Top Gun Maverick, but for families, where like we're all going to enjoy something here. And it may not be critically received well, but like, guys, it's not gonna. It's no one's gonna. You will be okay. We will be okay.
Yeah. I expect to come out of this movie and have the same criticisms as I had last time, which is there's not much there. I believe that they could do something more interesting with Mario if they wanted to. It's obviously they don't want to, and at a certain point, like when they're making this much money, I gotta just be like, they're not gonna make that movie for me. So can I get something out of the thing that actually exists before my very eyes? I'm gonna sort of just put aside my fantasy booking of like what I would really want here, and just try to enjoy this. So that's where I'm at. Like, I'm not gonna tilt at windmills with this one.
Yeah, two things, Grubb. This just feels like a cotton candy movie. You know, very pretty to look
sugar.
at. It's sugar, pure sugar, to consume. And then the second thing is, whenever I see a lot of like dour negativity towards something, especially from like a critic standpoint, it was Chuck that said this to me, that it is exponentially harder to try and explain why you do enjoy something. And I'm sure these critics, for even though they're like cowering in their seats, cringing in their seats, and a lot of them I completely respect, I hope they cracked a smile at least once.
Yeah. I mean, I bet there's, especially if you do bring any sort of Mario nostalgia in there, that's what they're playing on, and I get it. You know, we can actually touch on that. Audiences do seem to mostly like it. It's not as good as it did last time, where you know, had 59% critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes for the first movie, and then the audience tomato meter was 95%. Now it's 42% for critics and 91% for audiences. Still very good. That's better than most movies. And it's like, yeah, at a certain point, like, what are you trying to do with the film? Are you just trying to give people a fun ride of an experience, something that is, you know, sugar is still substance, right? It is still a substance. Is it nourishing? No, but it is something that people do crave and look for, and I think like we could set that there and be like, it's not doing all these other things that I think like a Lego movie does, or any sort of decent Pixar film, and those are also family movies, and those also often make a lot of money. So why couldn't they just do that with this? Well, they didn't. They went for the sugary route. Can you get any enjoyment out of that? 91% of people are saying yes, I can, and fair enough.
You know, the other movie franchise, I guess now it's a franchise that I think about, Grubb, is the Five Nights at Freddy's movie series. Yeah. We're at 2. We're probably gonna get a 3rd. And those are gigantic hits, because that is an IP that, even though it's framed as horror, still appeals to kids. And then like the horror freaks out there that are just looking for the newest scare or the newest horror movie are flocking to it as well. It's interesting to see the divide from critical reception and general audience reception.
So I'm seeing it Friday. I will be curious to see like where I land finally, because I'm like, you know, I have like this small spectrum of possibilities where it's like, oh, you know what, they did make some small improvements to what bothered me a little bit with the first movie, and it's still that movie again, and that was what I was expecting, so great. Or it follows the path of a lot of recent animated family movie sequels, where it's like they just did more, and because of that, it is more forgettable, and I can kind of leave it behind even faster than I did the first one. That's Wreck-It Ralph. That's that is Zootopia 2. That's a bunch of these movies recently. So I think that's a possibility here for me personally.
I'm very. I feel like I will watch the movie this weekend, Grubb, and think, wow, that was fun, or wow, that was okay. I like Donald Glover.
Yep. I see people like, oh, this is just like the Crimson Desert thing, but in reverse. I don't see it that way, but that's also completely fair if people feel that way. Where I am looking at Crimson Desert as a critic with a critical eye of someone who has thought about video games a lot. And if someone went into the Mario movie as a movie critic and thinks about movies a lot and what the medium can do, and that's why they don't like that, fuck yeah, give me that review. I read a bunch of those, and I'm like, I'm glad you wrote the review that way. And someone should be saying that about any sort of project that comes out, any sort of movie that comes out. Someone should be standing up and being like, this is a medium worth thinking deeply about. And I think video games are worthy of that, and that's my job. It's not my job to do that for movies. So my job is to take the family to a dumb thing and have a good time. And if it is sugary and forgettable, and if that's what we're saying Crimson Desert is, fair. I don't think it's even that sugary. I think it has a lot of bad crunch to it, but that's my experience.
It's kind of like a jawbreaker, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yes, a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and take a break. Well, we got plenty more Switch news to hit on after we come back, as well as just drama in the speedrunning scene. Can't wait to get to that. I had to get a little creative because yesterday was April Fool's Day, and I'm like, I started to fill out the news, and then I saw that one. I'm like, I'm just going to include it no matter what. If you want to skip out on the ads we're about to go to, you can do that. Go to giantbomb.com/join, become a premium member. Once you do that, you can go to the site and get ad-free versions of the audio and video show. In the meantime, though, we will be right back. All right, we're back for Game Mess Mornings. That's Jan Ochoa. I'm Jeff Grubb. Let's get right back into it. Switch 2 price is going to have to go up eventually, former Nintendo sales lead says. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. Nintendo will eventually have no choice but to increase the price of the Switch 2 hardware, a former Nintendo sales lead says. In an interview on Kit and Krista podcast, the former Nintendo employee, who is referred to simply as, quote, Sean, was asked about Sony's recent PS5 price hike and whether Nintendo would follow suit. Sean replied that while Nintendo will likely do its best to resist increasing the Switch 2 price for as long as possible, he feels it is inevitable that an increase will come eventually, and that Nintendo's recent decision to sell digital games for less than physical games in the U.S. may be an attempt to soften any backlash. Unfortunately, I think eventually the hardware price is going to have to go up, he said. I think that there's things that they can and seem to be doing to try to mitigate that, but I also look at this move on software as, if I'm reading it correctly, a way to make a hardware price increase a little bit more palatable. We've seen inflation being a problem for a while now. Tariffs are a more recent nuisance, but they're not going away anytime soon. The demand that AI is causing for chips is causing memory prices to go up. And, within the last couple of weeks, we have issues with oil prices going through the roof. And when oil goes through the roof, that's not just shipping cost that goes up. There's, you can imagine to get to the games from whatever they're being, or to get the games from wherever they're being manufactured to the warehouse, to the retailers, to the shelf. That's going to drive prices up. And this is another one that I've been looking into recently. He continues to go on here. But there's other things that people may not realize. Helium is a byproduct of producing oil. Helium is a key and unreplaceable ingredient in making semiconductors, which means hardware prices go up even more. It's an unreplaceable byproduct of making silicon wafers, which means if you're Nintendo and you're producing cartridges, that's going to go up as well. So helium is the substance on Earth that we can make the coldest. It's the coldest thing on Earth when we do make it in its in a certain form, and that is crucial to making these silicon wafers. There's a finite amount of it, unless you are getting it as a byproduct through oil. And if you run out of supply, you just can't make your processors anymore. You cannot make the chips that the game ships on, the NAND memory, the NAND flash memory. And so that, a lot of these companies are running into that already, and it's going to get worse here pretty soon before it gets better. So I think, Jan, when he talks about being inevitable, to me, it's like, okay, we do see them trying to maneuver and avoid raising prices as much as they can. but it does feel like they've done a lot already. And that was when they were probably thinking inflation and, oh no, these tariffs are pretty bad. And now we've listed 3 or 4 other reasons why price pressures might be increasing, or prices might be increasing due to other pressures. And they were not expecting that. So it feels inevitable because there could be even more reasons why prices are going to go up around the corner waiting for them, and they have to be ready for that as well as dealing with what's right in front of them.
The thing that I'm hearing, Grubb, is I should be going to my local party supply store and buying as much helium as possible.
Yes.
So I should just be sitting on a bunch of helium tanks that I can try and sell back to Nintendo.
I think so. It's time to invest in helium. Now, that could be a situation where I think that it's like helium-3, and I don't think that's what you get at Party City.
Well, if I get
Nintendo
3 tanks of helium, that's
yes,
helium
Nintendo
3.
might not know that. Yeah, helium-3. Yeah,
Exactly.
You could just mislabel it on eBay and then dip.
My new concern, Grubb, with this helium heist is what if I accrue too much helium that my house just starts floating away?
Well, then you're just in an up situation, and that was always where you were destined to end up, Jan. So
yes, both as Russell and the old man and the dog, the Holy Trinity, actually.
they did a fusion dance.
But everything that Sean was saying kind of felt like a no-brainer. It just felt like, the rising tide is coming, or high tide is coming. Of course, prices are going to eventually climb up on the Switch 2. But the insight about helium is interesting. And just like a fun little fact that I learned today.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard like the helium shortages for a while. Apparently, and I could be misremembering. So if there's anyone who's actually an expert on this stuff in chat, feel free to yell at me. But like, they store helium in caves, and the cave helium storage is running low, and so even people are saying even Party City doesn't have a lot of helium. It's like, okay, so man, that's a weird thing to have to deal with.
Do the employees or cave people that have to go inside the helium caves, do they have to wear a gas mask in fear that their voices are going to go up?
That's why the mole people sound so strange, Jan. That's how it works. That's science, brother.
Wow.
Yep, we learn a lot of new stuff on this show. Absolutely. I was born in one of those caves. Thank you, chat. All right, let's keep going here. Analytics firm says Nintendo Switch and Switch 2 third-party ecosystem sales are up 76% in 2025. This is from My Nintendo News. Video games analytic firm Ampere is reporting that combined third-party software sales on the Nintendo Switch and Switch 2 have helped boost third-party video game sales in the Switch ecosystem to $2.3 billion from the second quarter of 2025 through the fourth quarter of 2025. The firm also reveals that the third-party sales are up 76% year on year, as they were $1.3 billion over the same period in 2024. Warner Brothers was the big one to benefit here. Apparently, Hogwarts Legacy continues just to pick up a lot of that juice. It's wild how that continues to happen still. And then Bandai Namco and EA also saw the benefit of this. So, Jay, I'm trying to look at that timeline. Q2 of 2025 is when the Switch 2 launched, right?
Yes.
So there's probably some just extra money going around from people who are excited about the new hardware, being like, I'm going to get Mario Kart and maybe a couple other games. And it just feels like inevitably 1 or 2 of those games might end up being third party. So my question would be, do you think this is momentum that is building and will be sustained throughout the generation and grow as Switch 2 becomes a better platform for third-party games, or is this like an early blip?
I want to hope it's more of the former, Grubb, that it is going to be another safe haven for third-party games and other indie games. Like whenever it is an option to get a code for a game, lately I've been leaning, if there's a Switch 2 version, yeah, I'll go get the Switch 2 version. That being my second choice after PC versus choosing an Xbox or PS5 console code. And I hope that this is the start of bigger and better things. We've seen that you've played through RE9 all on the Switch 2. So it is definitely capable of handling a full experience like Resident Evil 9.
That's right.
And then not only that, but the first-party support, stuff like Pocopia has been doing gangbusters. We're going to get to Tomodachi Life in a second. But I hope RE9 is like a good is a step in the right direction for third-party games. I'm confident Pragmata is going to be completely fine on the Switch 2. Capcom is doing a lot of work to make sure that those Switch 2 games are running well. And on top of like the bigger publishers out there, I hope that there's a lot of indie success on the Switch 2 as well. Is Peak available on the Switch 2? Or is that
Peak
still
available on consoles?
I think it's still
At
only
all?
PC only, right?
It might be PC only. I don't know. Peak on consoles. Peak the co-op coming is not currently available on consoles, so they're still yet to pull that.
If and when that
yeah.
happens, and if that team is capable of making it happen on the Switch 2, that with game chat, Grubb.
Yes, I mean, I think for a lot of those friend swap party hangout games that have been popping off online with proximity chat, I think incorporating that with game chat and having the cameras and then still using the in-game prox chat is a really fun untapped concept that I think a couple of these games are going to leverage and find some success with. I think the question marks for me are coming out of Resident Evil 9 and me playing that and being like, this is not just acceptable, it is a completely great way to play this game. It's not the best way, but I thought it was fantastic. And so the Switch 2 has sort of proven itself to me that it could be a good platform for current modern releases of big AAA third-party games, something that the Switch 1 never really was.
Yeah.
And so, okay, well, it's true for now. It might not be true going into the future. I don't think that a lot of people still recognize that yet, and or if they do, they're like, well, yeah, it was Resident Evil 9. Come back to me when it's like 5 to 6 games in a row that all came out on the PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series X, PC, and Switch 2, and the Switch 2 version is kind of standing shoulder to shoulder with all of those. Then I could sort of start buying into this ecosystem for those kinds of games. For indie games, it's got to continue to be like one of the key homes for those, where it's like people like to play games on their Switch, and they like these littler games, and that's just a match made in heaven. That was true on the Switch 1. It was always the EAs and these other publishers that never really found a home on Switch. And, that's true going back to many previous Nintendo consoles as well. Now, while that's been true, the Switch was the first time I think Nintendo sold more than 1 billion pieces of software between itself and all of its partners on one of its consoles. And so people did buy a lot of games for that thing. It helped that there was a lot of them out there for sure, but still selling more than 1 billion pieces of software is huge. They want to continue that. So if they can, I think there's a chance they carry some of this momentum forward. I don't think it sort of flips the narrative on its head, though, where suddenly everyone's just buying their third-party games on the Switch 2. Yeah. Obviously, that's not in the cards.
Unless, like, we see a massive dip in, like, engagement with the PS5 because of the cost just skyrocketing and the folks just clamoring for stuff they can only get on a Switch 2. It's funny, though, because I also feel like a lot of this motion, at least in the indie scene, is kind of just not really acknowledged by Nintendo. Sure, we'll have our like Nintendo Indie World Showcase, but like when I think of like the Switch 1, some of these standout titles for that is not just the first party Nintendo stuff, but I think of Dead Cells, I think of Hades.
Yes.
And with the Switch 2, I think of like, oh, that's my Hades 2 machine.
And that was like the one Nintendo adopted, right? Nintendo adopted Hades 2 as like one of its own, and then it doesn't like do that frequently. It does that every once in a while.
Oh, Grubb, we could totally see a world where Zagreus or Malinois show up in a Smash game, huh?
Oh, yes. I think Zagreus is going to be in Smash in one way or another for sure, but I think could just straight up be a character in a new Smash Brothers game. Yes, that's possible. That would be awesome. I would actually prefer Malinois, I think, but I think it's Zagreus that they pick. All right, let's keep going here. Yes, did I do this one? No. Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream FAQ details 70 me limit and Nintendo Switch 2 improvements. Those are the two big things I want to talk about, but this is from Nintendo Everything. Let's go over some of these questions that they answered in the FAQ. Save data and islands. There are not shared islands between users. Everyone on a console gets their own island that has their own Miis and its own story going on. So it's not like I can bring my Mii to your island, sort of like Animal Crossing and have it, and I'm thinking of the original Animal Crossing now. I actually don't remember if that's how, oh no, that is how it worked, because Animal Crossing New Horizons on Switch 1, Jan, that was like one island per system. It was very weird. It's not like that at all here.
Okay.
As far as Nintendo Switch 2 compatibility, this was a question to me, Jan, because I've been playing that demo, and I got the demo right after Nintendo Switch Boost Mode got released, which is that function on the Switch 2 that makes Switch 1 games run as if they're being docked so that you can get 1080p. And it was curious in this case because the demo I'm playing is the Switch 1 release. And because of that, it was running in boost mode, so I couldn't use the touchscreen. And I was like, oh, why can't I use it? Why isn't this working? And then eventually, if you press the touchscreen enough times, a system level icon pops up. It's like, yo, you're in boost mode. Touchscreen's not going to work. I was like, oh, okay. Weird. So I guess I really hope there's a Nintendo Switch 2 version. Well, sounds like there will be. The game is playable on both the original Switch and Switch 2. Playing on the Switch 2 offers advantages like reduced loading times and the game chat feature. Requires Nintendo Switch Online. And then the Switch 2 handheld mode, the answer there is the game runs at a higher 1080p resolution in handheld mode on the Switch 2 and does not support the handheld mode boost feature. So they will be turning that off and instead just running it in a basically native way on the Switch 2, so you could still use the handheld touchscreen mode. So they thought about that. That is nice. And then the other big headline here is the 70 me limit. I say that's a big headline because in the community over there on the Tomodachi Life subreddit, this has been a big point of contention. They're like, what's the limit going to be? I need to have endless me's. I want to have 200 me's on my island, just doing all kinds of crazy shit. You can only have 70, although that certainly seems like enough to me, I would say.
That seems enough for me. That's enough for our crew, plus the extended family, and then I guess people I know in real life.
Yep. Yes, exactly. Like I want, right. I want my immediate family. Yes. I want you guys. I want, and then I want basically just WCW wrestlers from the 90s and Waluigi. Shaq, of course, Shaq and Shat. You know, that's, of course.
And then
can't
the various
Tomodachi Life without them.
The various genital people that people are making.
Yes, the buttholes and the pee-fees.
Yep.
They're just a whole island of that.
Oh God, there's gonna be a whole island of that.
Pee-pee Island. Welcome everybody. There's some other stuff here about me, gender, and relationships, which people did get a good look at in the demo, and it did seem really well done. Players could choose male, female, or other for a me's gender, and this does not affect the core game. For romantic partners, players could choose male, female, other, or a combination. Relationships and babies can occur regardless of the chosen gender system. It's or setting. It's just going to function the way it always does. And then social media sharing, they are saying that is pretty limited. Posting images and video of the game on social media is permitted, subject to Nintendo's guideline and the social media platform's rules. However, some console functions like direct posting or automatic image uploading are not supported for content captured from this game. So they are going to put a little bit of a roadblock up. I wonder if that's something they get rid of eventually, because it already hasn't stopped like the sharing of PP Island, Jan. So I just don't know what they think they're doing here.
I feel like it is the whole family aspect that is keeping them from doing it. But I hope Nintendo, this is one of those rare instances where Nintendo's like, all right, fine.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad they're like, all right, fine. This is, for Nintendo, almost feels like the best case scenario of like, we're going to wash our hands of it. We're not going to help you share your perversions and your dirty little memes. Yeah. But you can do it if you have your own ways of accomplishing that.
Because we're in a very different space than we were with the original Tomodachi Life coming out. You know, like streaming is a gigantic part of the culture now, and sharing and shareable clips, short form video, that a lot of those streamers, a lot of those short form videos will push sales of games because people want to engage with the silliness, the goofiness, or see PP Island for themselves. So I hope Nintendo just makes it easier to share. And if that is a thing that they actually do, I think that is good news for other online sharing support for Nintendo things, perhaps of a Mario making variety.
Yeah, right, exactly. They'd have similar concerns there as well, I'm sure. I think hopefully what happens here is they get out of the blast radius of the launch when they would probably expect the most like unhinged stuff to happen, because the people who are, just trying to poke around and see what's possible, see the naughtiest thing they can do. That will wear off pretty quickly. It won't ever go away,
Yeah.
but it'll wear off pretty quickly for the vast majority of people. So maybe we get 6 months out and they're like, we turned that on for the people who are still really playing this. I would be completely happy with that. Again, for me, this is best case scenario because I would much rather have all the uncensored options and have Nintendo censor sharing on the back end,
Sure.
as opposed to them going in there and trying to figure out some filter that's just going to make it annoying to like do something that is actually maybe probably not like innocent or innocuous and just has a weird like little phrase in there that they might get through their filter. That never makes for a fun time.
No, and I also this is just a general curiosity, Grubb, because I'm not super familiar with Tomodachi Life, at least the original. Can Mies die?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, it has a lot in common with The Sims, but it's much more laid back even than that. So I don't know.
I just want a Viking funeral for some Mies. I just think that'd be funny.
Man, maybe we couldn't. Maybe eventually, like we'll crack the system open and we'll mod it and we'll add all that stuff ourselves. It'll be a good time.
Lovely. But like all of the clips that I've been seeing just from the demo alone, Grubb, are like absolutely hilarious.
It's very funny, and it's even like seeing the same scenes, like with just different characters or different topics. It's funny kind of every time so far. And it's like we have only seen a very, very, very small fraction of what's in there. I think that will be the question. How robust? How far does it go? Is it sort of like a one-note game, or are they able to elaborate on it and introduce a lot of different ideas? I hope so.
Grubb, like an interesting twist and other difference from in our I guess general monoculture and culture as a society is that reality TV wasn't as big of a thing, specifically dating reality TV shows and like the prevalence of just like Kardashian style shows, right? Wasn't as big with the original Tomodachi Life coming out. This, I could see people just making certain like tableaus of scenes and reenacting like other moments or creating the shareable content through this. It's gonna be bonkers.
Yeah, I want more confessional style interviews in Tomodachi Life. That would be great. All right, coin pusher roguelike Raccoin hit a massive Steam sales milestone in just 24 hours. This is from Jen Glennon at Polygon. Shout out to Jen. Fans of Balatro take note. There's a new rift on the Moorish number goes up genre on the scene, and it's already doing some impressive numbers on Steam. Raccoin, a coin pusher roguelike builder, which we just did a quick look of, where you combine special coins and powerful items to trigger massive payoffs, launched on March 31st. The very next day, on April 1st, the team at developer Dorakun shared on Blue Sky that Raccoin had sold more than 100,000 copies on Steam in just the past 24 hours. The game is obviously just popping off. I did see it doing very well. A lot of people were playing it concurrently on Steam. It goes to show like there's room in this genre. People like have realized very quickly, I'm a fan of these things and I want to get on the next new hot one. That continues to be like one of the powerful aspects of a platform like Steam, where these games usually are happening first, where people really quickly recognize that this is something new. I tried it. I love it. I know why I like it. And so I'm on the lookout for the next thing that is going for it. And then on the other side, the developers, I think PlayStack is involved in this as well.
Yeah.
It's like PlayStack's just like, we will laser target you guys then. If you're going to if you're promising to show up, we'll laser target you with the thing you're looking for. And we'll work with the developer to make sure they know the best way to make a game that will appeal to you. And it just seems like everyone knows what they're doing in this. And it's cool to see it working out.
Yeah, it's great for the devs, and I think it's something to be said, Grubb, about smaller games in general, right?
Yes.
Like, it is incredibly difficult. I believe Vitaly was talking about this, but it's incredibly difficult for these like big, gigantic publishers to be as nimble and as mobile as these smaller studios. But I think, there's something to be said about these smaller initiatives that just can run away with a funky idea and get a decent amount of success from it. So I don't know why these bigger publishers don't. I mean, they did have smaller initiatives inside of them, and then they closed all of them or forced them to work in other stuff. But fantastic for Raccoin's developer. I love Raccoons pushing coins, Grubb.
Yeah, I need to play this. I like Raccoons. I like coin pushers. I need to get in on this action. Yeah, I don't know. I always wonder. It's like, man, could EA have figured out a pop cap a little bit better than what it did? But
Oh my God.
they always follow the same pattern of let's acquire PopCap, let's let them do what they do for a little bit, and then suddenly we're going to wake up one day and be like, we need a bigger return on investment from everything you do. So therefore, you have to make bigger games. And now they're making, not that those games were looked upon like unfavorably. A lot of people really liked Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare, the shooters. But it's like, obviously, that's great that you're doing that, but you need to, the focus should still be PopCap making PopCap style games. And then they just stopped doing that, and it just went away. And it's like, there's got to be a way for a big company like that to navigate that space in a way that is not going to eventually just eat up what the thing originally did in favor of bigger and bigger games.
100%, Grubb. Like, there are so many different mini games within a game that you can just spin off. A Queen's Blood solo dolo experience would do Crazy Town bananas. Here's my pitch. All right. There's some people that work at Disney out there that we're fairly associated with. I'm talking to you right now, all right? There's a certain card game. There's a certain card game in Star Wars, Grubb.
Ooh, yeah. They should just elaborate on that.
Sabotaged.
Yeah, oh, shit. Oh, man.
Cut the check. Let's do it.
Oh, now I'm thinking about that. I want that real bad.
I don't even know how to play Sabak.
That's pretty. Listen, you can Balatro that up pretty quickly. I would really enjoy that.
Oh my God! Have fucking Watto in there.
Give it like the old vector graphics style CRT like treatment, and make it look like you're playing it on a Star Wars in movie display. Ooh, that would be fantastic. All right, let's get these last couple of stories. Resident Evil Trilogy is now on Steam. This is the GOG optimized ports. It was on GOG. Now it's also on Steam, so you can get Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, the original versions, running in really top-tier order on PC. Let's see, Resident Evil games, each one is priced at $10, and you can get them with a discount for a little bit for the next few days, through the next few weeks, through April 15th, so you can pick those up. And then finally, Super Mario Brothers Speedrunner claims he's being sabotaged. This is from Amelia Zollner at Kotaku. Speedrunner Nifsky, who's been known for being the second fastest person to complete Super Mario Brothers, has spent most of 2026 working toward a monumental achievement, being the first person to tie with a theoretically perfect playthrough of the game. However, after a particularly sudden rule change that voided his preferred method of input, he's now accusing the game's Speedrun.com moderation team of conspiring against him and his progress. In a YouTube video published Monday, Nifsky alleged that the current any percentage world record holder, Average 11, conspired, this is a quote, conspired with certain Super Mario Bros. 1 leaderboard moderators and others to rig the vote to ban input swapping for the purpose of sabotaging my any percentage Taz tie progress. That's a lot, but basically what he's saying is he's trying to tie what is the theoretically fastest speed run you can do in Super Mario Brothers, which one other person has done, this Average 11. And his method, Nifsky, of doing that requires him doesn't require, but he prefers to go from using a controller in certain segments to using a PC keyboard as an input method for different parts of the segments. And previously, like 6 months ago, maybe not even that long ago, the moderation team, which is 9 people, voted 8-1, like the goddamn Supreme Court, to approve input swapping. And they're like, yeah, that's fine. We don't think that is against any of the spirit of what we're going for here. So thumbs up. And then suddenly, as it seems like he might be getting closer to accomplishing this, things changed, and he's accusing some scene drama of getting in the way of him accomplishing this. I mostly included this jam because it's like, as a reminder, all these fun spaces, if it's people and they're competing or there's just people existing side by side, everything eventually just becomes politics. Everything becomes people scheming. It goes all the way down to the bottom. It goes all the way up to the top. It's everywhere. It's impossible to avoid. But yeah, scene drama.
I wish for easy resolutions for all those involved, just because I don't know, the speedrunning community seems very tight knit. It does seem like one of those communities where everyone does know everyone. And I don't know what it is, Grubb. I think this is a big week for Sabotage.
It is. So, Sabotage it's out there.
Now I'm waiting is someone out there trying to sabotage us?
Yeah, could be. Could be this moderation team on speedrun.com. Who's to say?
Oh my.
Yeah, I mean, the King of Kong's Fistful of Quarters is where I first realized it's like, oh yeah, this sort of backstabbing can happen in anything, and the way that those grown men behaved trying to set a world record in Donkey Kong, it's like, yeah, okay, if it can happen there, it can happen anywhere, and of course, it's still happening in a Nintendo-related video game scene. All right, that does it for the headlines. Let's get to the poll question from yesterday. I should have the results right over here. I'm going to refresh. The question was, are you seeing the Mario Galaxy movie in the next 2 weeks? I am. So are 38% respondents. 62% of people said no, they are not. So I think that says like the audience here is like, yeah, look, I'll check it out, but not a ton of excitement. But 38% is, that's a lot of people going to see a movie out of the 4,000 that voted. So I kind of wish I could like quickly compare this to like how other movies would fare. Like, what did people do with Project Hail Mary? I bet our audience was even more than that for Project Hail Mary. Wouldn't be surprised by that. That movie did very well. Jen, are you seeing Mario in the theaters? You have plans for that?
Yeah, planning to see it this weekend. I thought about perhaps tonight, but I'm too sleepy, Grubb. I'd probably fall asleep.
No. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. All right. That's the poll question from yesterday. Let's see. We need a new poll question. Let's see. Should we just do one about the PS6 handheld and the price? What do we think it's going to cost? Yeah, we'll come up with one about the PlayStation 6 price. Basically, how much do you think it's going to cost? And we'll give you a range of, let's say, I'm going to start it at, I guess, 500. I think that's pretty low. 500 to 600, 600 to 700, 700 to 800. 800, 900 plus something like that. I think that's probably where most people are going to end up. We'll come up with the exact verbiage, get that posted up for you all here pretty soon. We'll get the results, talk about it here on Giant Bomb on Game S Mornings tomorrow. Speaking of Giant Bomb, voicemail dump truck coming up pretty soon, right, Jan?
Yes, we have our dear Portal pal, Mary Kish, joining us on the dump truck. And speaking about Tomodachi Life, Grubb, we're going to continue Marry Me, Tomodachi, the internet's hottest dating show, later this afternoon. And also, gang, tomorrow for UPF, our dear friend Samantha Coleman is joining us. You won't want to miss it.
Yep, we're going to have a lot of fun. We'll play some Samantha's bringing her new game. It's going to be a lot of fun. Everybody cannot wait. Okay, let's see. With all of that out of the way, Jan, I think what I'm going to do now is say thank you for hanging out with me today and talking about video games, man. I really do appreciate it.
It's the only way to start a Thursday.
And thank you for all watching and listening. You are the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.